Hello and welcome to another video where today we'll take a look at the most interesting new things revealed in the new novelization of the Dragon Prince Book 2, Sky, that just released yesterday. Before we begin, I want to remind you that this is not a replacement for reading the book. There are many more exciting details in this book that I won't cover here, so definitely go and read the book after this video. And of course, there are spoilers for the book ahead, so stop watching now if you don't want to be spoiled. But now we're ready to start with the exciting stuff. The book begins with another interesting and short tale, presumably from Zadia, just like in book 1. If you also haven't read that one, just as a quick throwback, that story told the tale of two tribes worshipping the moon. When one day only half of the moon could be seen, one tribe accused the others of stealing the other half, and a war started from the disagreement if it was a disc or a leaf. One tribe had to be lying. But when there was no moon in the sky anymore, a child realized that they all lived under the same moon, and when they realized that, there was peace. The tale in the second novel is a spin on the Greek myth of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun with his wax wings that melted and got destroyed, which resulted in him falling from the sky. In the tale from book 2, a girl is forbidden to fly with the wax wings her grandfather created, because her uncle flew too close to the sun and died. But the girl reinforces the wings with strong glue instead of wax and succeeds in flying in the sun, despite everyone doubting her. It looks like these short tales in the beginning are always focusing on children making a difference because they see the world differently and come up with creative new ideas. In a way, that is also what the Dragon Prince is about, just like Harrow in his letter said.
Reject the chains of history. Do not let the past define your future as I did. Free yourself from the past. Learn from it, understand it, then let it go. Create a brighter future from your own hearts and imagination.
But let's not get too lost. Back to the book. A detail we didn't get to see in the show was Callum finishing his letter to King Harrow before Rayla interrupts him. In the book, we get to see Callum asking Harrow if he's okay if he called him Dad. After that, he tells him that he loves him. Definitely a very beautiful but sad moment with the knowledge that Harrow is dead. For the next detail we missed out on in the show, I'm not quite sure if maybe that was for the best and we could have lived without ever knowing. I'm talking about the scene in episode 1 of season 2 where Claudia sends Rayla to sleep with a song played on a flute. To not fall asleep themselves, Claudia and Soren had used earplugs. But Soren was extra creative. He used the bread of an old sandwich as earplugs. In the end, these bread plugs, also called ear bread at some point, are eaten by Soren. He really loves his bread, no matter the condition. The next few facts we learn are centered around a character that was already teased by the creators a while ago, as the mentor of Viren. His name is Kapar, and there are some very interesting bits of info about him in this book. Firstly, the secret passageways in Katolis Castle that lead to Viren's study are modeled after Kapar's house, which happens to be called the Puzzle House. The creators recently teased that there would be a new graphic novel called The Puzzle House, centered around the past of Viren and his family. Additionally, the serum Viren uses to try and decrypt the Mystery Mirror's secrets with is also an item Viren inherited from Kapar. The serum itself is also very interesting. The oracles of Ophidia were said to have used it a long time ago. We don't even know what the oracles of Ophidia are. It is also made by harvesting the venom from the fangs of eyeless vipers on a moonless night, because even the vaguest beam of moonlight would change the effect from being able to see through illusions to driving the user into irreversible madness. Viren also mentions at some point that Kapar had some sort of repentance, where he destroyed much of his belongings. This makes me wonder if Kapar regretted something related to his dark magic use, maybe even questioning the entirety of dark magic itself, hence destroying many of his belongings. I'm sure we'll learn more about that in the coming years through the graphic novel and the upcoming seasons. Leaving the Kapar topic behind, the next thing that caught my interest was the summit of the Pentake. We learn that the place where all 5 rulers meet is a temple on a hill called All Haven Hill. This region in Duran was declared as a neutral territory by a former Duran king, and the first summit of the Pentake was held there. Ending the Mage Wars we're also yet to learn details about. During the summit, we get to know a new magical ingredient Viren uses to create his epic PowerPoint presentation to scare the Pentake's leaders. It's the dust of dried Zadian moonlight mushrooms that awakens his map to life. The next additional detail we didn't see in the show happens when the queens of Duran visit Catullus to ask them for help during the coming winter. Harrow initially promises them help, even willing to make his own people suffer from hunger. After Viren proposes a plan involving dark magic that will leave nobody hungry, he discusses it with Sarai in a sparring match, where she's entirely opposed to the idea of using dark magic as a shortcut to feed the kingdoms. She thinks that such goals could only be properly achieved through hard work.
You said you want to build a better world, to really change things. That's going to take decades of hard work. There's no monster you can slay and solve all your problems. There's no shortcut.
That much is also shown in the show. But after all this happens is where we start to get a more complete picture. After discussing with Sarai, King Harrow decides to abandon the dark magic plan and fall back on sharing the suffering with Duran. But when he goes to tell the queens of Duran of his decision, they suddenly deny all help from Catullus. Viren had told them about Catullus's resources, and the queens don't want to rob Catullus of more resources than they can give. But because Harrow can't watch Duran helplessly suffer, he changes his mind again to follow through with the dark magic plan that ends up killing 3 queens, Sarai, Anika and Niha. On to the next thing that caught my interest. This one has to do with a scene where Viren researches Erebos and every mention of the name smears into a black spot of ink. In the letter Harrow writes to Callum, he also mentions the name Erebos in connection to the magical cube, the key of Erebos. After Callum has finished the letter, he notices that, sure enough, where once the name Erebos stood, there's just a smeared blob of black ink. This may be a sign that the smearing ink had nothing to do with Viren's research on Erebos specifically, but is something more universal. Perhaps dragons put this mechanism into place after locking Erebos up to erase him from history because they deemed his ideas and even his existence too dangerous. Before I come to my last big point, I want to mention a few smaller interesting things. When Viren returns defeated and hopeless from the summit meeting, he longs for the company of his ex-wife Lissa, and immediately after that, when Opelli lashes out at him for stealing Harrow's seal, he also thinks at first it was Lissa screaming at him instead of Opelli, which points to the dysfunctional part of the now broken family, and why it broke up. Later, in an emergency council meeting where the council discusses how to handle Viren, Councilman Salir speaks out in favor of Viren, criticizing his actions but not his goals. This same councilman is the same one that will arrange the deal between Viren, Ezran and Kasef to lock Ezran up and make Viren king. His loyalty to Viren already started in Season 2. Now to the last big point, Claudia. One of the biggest discussions around the topic dark magic is her killing a deer. And this book makes Claudia a lot more human in this regard. In the scene where she kills the deer fawn, she struggled with her conscience. What finally brings her over the edge and lets her kill that fawn is a conversation where she overheard Viren say he would do anything to protect his family when she was still a little child. Maybe that conversation had something to do with Viren saving Soren's life afterwards? In that moment, she feels like she has to be as brave as her father and do anything for Soren. The scene doesn't cut away from her killing the fawn like in the show. We get to listen into her thoughts and the emotional struggle she has. We also get to see that she's not as dark magic centered as everyone thinks she is. She offers Ezran a mixture to help Callum with his sickness after performing dark magic, and Ezran assumes it to be more dark magic and denies it. After which she explains that it's mainly just made from lemons and other harmless ingredients. In summary, getting insight in Claudia's thoughts and background story makes everything much more complete and relatable, even when she's killing animals. Kinda. You start to realize more and more that she just wants the best for her friends and even more for her family, and wants to live up to her dad's standards. That can lead her on the wrong path, but she tries her best. The same can be said for the whole book. It gives a lot of new insight into what all the characters think, which is very interesting and adds a lot to the already great story we've had as a TV show. That's why I'd recommend everyone to go and read this book, or even listen to the audiobook. It's a great experience, and I've only scratched the surface with this video. And since I'm done scratching the surface now, this video is gonna end here. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.